majorly this thing is coming from the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India. If you look at the examination architecture, the prelims is comprised of 2 sections. The GS1, CSAT, it is qualifying in nature, 33%, but yes, there is a good amount of phobia among the candidates, especially when the last to last exam was very, very tough. What you require is to crack UPSC is not that you be a genius, but what is required is discipline and micro observation of the problems in your preparation and an attitude to find solution to those problems. The answer should tell that the student knows what she is talking about, right? Failures aayenge, right? You have to be mentally strong. There the parental support, the mentor support, it becomes extremely important. So hello everyone, this is a small session with respect to understanding the UPSC journey and setting the right approach. Myself Himanshu Sir, and I am faculty at Vision IAS. So the session is intended for fresh beginners. Yeah. So first of all, what's the nature of the exam? So this exam, it is conducted for recruitment at Group A level and also at Group B level. And the services are All India Services and Central Civil Services. All India Services, well, they serve under the Chief Ministers, right? Because home cadre system, it is there. That is IAS, IPS and Indian Forest Services. Whereas rest of the services, they serve under the control of central ministries. Such kind of services, they are called Central Civil Services, right? From here itself, we can understand that from where this thing it is coming. Majorly, this thing is coming from the 7th schedule of the Constitution of India, which basically highlights that what are the subjects, which will be central list of subjects, and which will be the subjects, which will be state list of subjects. So the subjects which are there in the state list of subjects, the services, they are called AIS, and therefore they work under the state administrative thing of the Chief Minister. And Central Civil Services, they are basically related to those subjects which are the central list of subjects, right? So that is how it is. So यहाँ पे भी थोड़ा बहुत एक like thought process आता है. Stages, as everyone knows, that there is prelim stage, right? There is mains stage, and then ultimately there is personality test, right? Then if you look at the examination architecture, the prelims is comprised of 2 sections. The GS1, right, which has history, geography, polity, economy, environment, science and technology, current affairs. And nowadays we notice that current international affairs, they have also started to be present. एक टाइम था उतने नहीं आते थे इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन से, तो a wide spectrum it is there. CSAT, it is qualifying in nature, 33%, but yes, there is a good amount of phobia among the candidates, especially when the last to last exam was very, very tough, right? So therefore, not to be neglected. When we look at the mains, so this is just qualifying. When we look at the mains, it is 1750 marks, right? So it has a qualifying language paper, and which is like Indian language paper, and then English language, that's okay. Scoring wise, if you notice, then essay, it is of 250 marks, then GS1 till GS4, it is 4 into 250, optional 2 into 250, right? So therefore, that is how it is there. If you notice, here, the mains only subjects, they form more than 50% of the weightage. The optional subjects, it is 500 marks, right? Then you have essay, plus you combine GS4 is ethics, purely, mains only subject. In GS1 to 3 also, there are such subjects which are not there in the prelims, right? As a result, what do we learn from this? We learn from this that when we are preparing for the UPSC exam from day 1 itself, we should try to do an integrated preparation of prelims and mains, and we should not neglect the subjects which are not there in the prelims and are there only in the mains. Because once this examination cycle starts taking place, so between prelims and mains, you get only a time period of 3 months or so. And how can you prepare more than 50% of the syllabus in a period of 3 months, while you required roughly 1 year for preparation of prelims only subjects, right? So that is the thought process. Interview, 275 marks, right? So that's also very, very important. So from the examination architecture perspective, students should also think that while preparing for current affairs, I should right away on day 1, I should fill my DAF. That DAF can be a very rough kind of a DAF, but from that I'll get a sense that which particular areas or which particular subjects or topics, they are unique to my personality. And whenever any current affair news comes, which is specific to my DAF, I should at least segregate those current affair topics into a particular folder. And this is how I'm crafting my own syllabus for my own unique personality test, right? So therefore that should be the focus. Then certain myths are there, right? That only genius, they crack UPSC, right? Or we should read everything under the sun, or prelims is just about facts, or mains is just verbose writing, whereby those who are very awesome in writing long essays, only those people are able to do well, and interview is all about checking the factual memory of the candidate. These are all myths, right? What you require is to crack UPSC is not that you be a genius, but what is required is discipline and micro observation of the problems in your preparation and an attitude to find solution to those problems. Similarly, you don't have to read everything under the sun. Not right away, because on day one itself, you'll read the syllabus. You may not truly understand the syllabus, right? So therefore, you begin your journey, you begin your preparation. And yes, once you are 1 month, 2 months, 3 months into the preparation, gradually start interacting with the syllabus, right? So therefore have a copy of the syllabus, which is very handy, maybe in your tablet, maybe in your room, and gradually you start interacting with it. And gradually you will try to understand, gradually try to understand that, okay, what is the demand of the UPSC, and accordingly you give more importance to a particular kind of information, and you negate the rest of the information. That is how it is, right? So it has to be very, very focused kind of an approach, right? Then prelims is not just facts. In fact, if whenever in your journey you'll analyze the previous year questions of the prelims, you'll understand that, okay, most of the questions, they had element of reasoning in it. Okay, so the questions, they either come from why part of the event, or the consequence part of the event, or the questions, they come from comparisons of very similar facts or concepts, or the questions, they come from trends, outliers to the trends, and reversal of trend. Okay, so therefore it's a myth actually that prelims is just about facts, right? Had UPSC been about facts only, then well, every day you are getting a book in the form of a newspaper. How can you rote learn so much? It's just not possible. Okay, it would be an ocean of facts, right? So therefore, what used to work for your CBSE exam, right, your 10th board, your 12th board, will not work, right, for this exam. What used to work for your college, that only attend the college lectures, and whatever has been just delivered in that particular lecture, just uska ratta lagao and you'll be able to do very well. That system will also not work here, right? So analysis becomes very, very important, right? उस analysis में से prelims के question भी निकल सकते हैं, उस analysis से mains के questions भी बन सकते हैं, right? So therefore, if you focus on the conceptual part of things, and if you do a very structured kind of preparation, then integrated preparation is the answer. Like interview में your attitudes are checked, your value system, it is checked, yeah? Whether you take into account the problems and the views of multiple stakeholders, right? Whether you'll be able to operate as per the constitutional values. These are the things which are checked, right? For example, when I qualified my interview, I got highest marks in my interview, and frankly, out of the 10 questions, supposedly, if they asked me 10 questions, 70% of the questions, or 7 questions, I did not know direct answer to, right? But still I was able to score very, very well. The reason was that I approached each and every problem, each and every question as a problem solving exercise, right? I tried to take a 360-degree view, right? I try to analyze the issue, and then on the spot I try to come up with the answer. In fact, I converted even the factual questions into analysis questions, right? By negating the facts and talking about the impact of the facts or reasons for the facts. That's how my interview went. What are the core competencies? So as I told you, conceptual clarity is very, very important, right? Once you learn the concept, after that, their application and integration with the current affairs becomes very, very important, right? So therefore, there is static part of UPSC syllabus, and then there is this current affairs part of the UPSC syllabus. The static, think of it like concepts. Current, think of it like application of concepts. Until unless you will merge the both, you will not be fully exam ready, right, for components like essay, or integrated questions are asked even in other subjects by the UPSC, right? They try to integrate even in history like subject. For example, they try to integrate the world history into Indian history, into post-independence India. That's how the things are, right? So therefore, the analysis becomes very, very important, right? So analysis, I told you, right, the why part of things. इनफैक्ट कोई भी इवेंट है उसमें एक वाई होता है, एक हाउ होता है, और एक इम्पैक्ट होता है. if you analyze the previous year questions, UPSC has much more focus on the why part and on the impact part. Yes, they have asked questions on the how part, but they are relatively less in number, right? Ethical judgment becomes important, right? For example, in the paper of ethics or in essay or in conclusion part of any question of any of the GS or your optional also, ultimately the judgment, the conclusion should reflect somewhere, if possible, the values which are expected from a civil servant, right? So communication part, that is very clear answer. Don't try to focus on using very complex English. Try to be precise. Use simple English, but the answer should tell that the student knows what she is talking about, right? So that is much more important, and that's where in the clarity of communication, structured answers, diagrams, they also become important. Okay, temperament, composure under uncertainty, balanced viewpoints, listening skills, right? So fine, these are the things they will check in your interview. Okay, then there are certain paper-wise skills also. For example, in prelims, right? Speed, accuracy, elimination, pattern sense, right? Pattern, I told you, patterns, reversal of patterns, outliers to patterns or trends. Let me put it like this. The skill which is required in prelims is, on the spot, you have to gauge that whether you have to be Rahul Dravid or you have to be Virendra Sehwag, right? That means, on the spot, as per your competencies and as per the difficulty level of the question paper, you have to decide that in which particular questions I should be very defensive and in which particular questions I should be more adventurous. That is, I should try to take a guess, because trust me, most of the questions in prelims, they'll be resolved through probabilities, right? ऐसा नहीं होता है कि आपको most of the questions का answer ऐसा पता हो कि अच्छा this is a question, this is the answer, this is a question, this is the answer. Analysis goes into it, and where analysis comes, there probabilities come, right? So therefore, that is where all of these things they come into operation, right? Speed is of course very, very important, right? But I think the speed part is much more important in the mains, because they have to, there you have to fill the empty sheets. Okay, so mains mein syllabus is very, very important, right? So therefore, you should always try to use the components which are there in the syllabus, right, to basically approach answer to any particular question, right? Then these are the things one should be aware about. For example, analyze, examine, critically evaluate. In analyze, you try to analyze the components, the subcomponents. You try to talk about the how part of things, right? The why and the consequence part of the things, right? You are taking a neutral stand. You are simply analyzing. तुम उसको छिन्न भिन्न कर रहे हो उस चीज को, और तुम चीज को समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हो. Examine में तुम थोड़े से pros and cons देते हो, ठीक? Critically evaluate में तुम एक judgmental call लेते हो. That okay, this is the these are the two sides, and right, so ultimately you take a judgment call that this is what is right, this is what is wrong, this kind of scenario, right? You have to be very conscious of your time management, right? Because the biggest challenge of mains is to complete a question paper, right? So therefore that requires a lot of practice, which can come in the form of writing answers, right? Structure part, right, which clearly tells the examiner that okay, the major marks will come from the body. Okay, so don't get over focused on the introduction and the conclusions, right? Fine, they are like ये जो है ना toppings हैं, body जो है, that is the real food, real meat. Okay, evidence, don't get over obsessed with data, but yes, evidence, they also act as topics. They kind of give legitimacy to your answer, right? So think of it like this only. Okay, so that is how it is. Interview, I have already mentioned many of the things earlier. So fine, this is a information matrix that what is a component. Example, if I talk about prelims, so information, that's the what part of things. It has static facts, themes, schemes, maps. ये सब आपको करने होंगे. Skill is elimination, probabilistic thinking, which I just told you about. Risk control, that is where you have to be Rahul Dravid, where you have to be Virendra Sehwag, right? Mains mein similarly, concepts are extremely important. Use of those concepts in the form of certain case studies or certain cases, data points, that is the evidence part. Framing, structure, evaluation. So this is kind of like repeat. We have already discussed this kind of a scenario, right? Now building the right mindset before starting, right? So first of all, syllabus first. As I told you, yes, read the syllabus once, but you'll be able to get the true feel of the syllabus only once you are like 1 or 2 months into the preparation, right? So try to get into the habit of reading the newspapers, and then gradually you'll become accustomed with the different kind of terminology which is used in the UPSC, and gradually over a period of time you'll become what you call as, you'll know the syllabus. Once you have figured out these things, then within the first phase of your preparation, you should fix the sources. Okay, there's a principle of psychology. The information which is encoded in a particular manner and revised every time in the same manner, that information is much better understood and much better memorized, right? That is why all the toppers, they agree to one point, and that is one should read a book 10 times rather than reading 10 books one time, right? So therefore that becomes very, very important. Fix your source, right? Combine it with certain official documents, that means government issued documents like budget or reports of the committees, laws, right, etc., economic survey, these kind of things, right? So therefore please avoid source hopping, right? System over motivation, that basically means, yes, we are all very emotional people, and we have, this UPSC is a big emotional journey also, but ultimately the person who will be able to be disciplined, right, that person who will be able to do emotional management, emotional control, that person will be relatively much more successful, right? So therefore there's no one way, every student is different, but try to become as organized as possible, and that system is best, that timetable is best, which makes you feel more confident, right? And of course teachers are there just in case if you have any issues, right? And obviously confidence comes when you get result of your efforts, and result of your efforts, they will come in the form of marks which you get in the prelims tests which you do, or the mains level test which you do, right? So therefore that kind of scenario. Active recall, spaced repetition, these things, they should also be included. Spaced repetition means basically there's this spread of activation of node hypothesis in psychology, which basically means that information is organized in a mind in form of like network which has nodes. And when you revise node 1, it automatically, subconsciously shakes the node 2, right? So therefore, even when you are revising only the node 1, subconsciously you start revising the node 2 also, right? So therefore, the network should keep shaking. Do not allow the network to go dormant for a long period of time. That is the meaning of spaced repetition, right? Or spaced revision. ठीक है ना? तो टाइम टू टाइम गेट बैक इन टच. पूरा पॉलिटी रिवाइज करने की जरूरत नहीं है, पर एक चैप्टर रिवाइज कर लो. पूरा हिस्ट्री रिवाइज करने की जरूरत नहीं है, बट उसका एक चैप्टर रिवाइज कर लो. ठीक है? सो देयरफॉर दैट इज हाउ इट इज. एक्टिव रिकॉल, it basically, from my perspective, it basically means that doing minor revisions, right? Some question pops up in the mind, try to revise it at that point of time itself. Do not leave it. For example, let's say you're talking about something, right? क्या अपने subject से ले लेता हूँ example. For example, let's say you're talking about that exam, UPSC exam used to get conducted in London, or civil service exam used to get conducted in London. One way of doing active recall from my perspective can be that ये exam हुआ कब था, start कब हुआ था, 1853. So therefore active recall में क्या आएगा कि अच्छा UPSC exam of 1853 continued to be held in London, something like this, right? So therefore small revisions that you can do, micro revisions, right? Don't get obsessed कि मैं पूरा ही किताब revise करूँगा एक ही बारे में, ठीक है ना? Practice, I told you this is important, that is writing answers, etc. Right? Failures आएंगे, right? You have to be mentally strong. There the parental support, the mentor support, it becomes extremely important, right? Then ethical compass, that is, we should always try to, whenever we are writing answers, we should try to anchor our answers, especially the conclusions, right, into the constitutional values, the analysis, right? It should be based on constitutional values as far as possible, but depends on the subject, right? Health is extremely important, right? So therefore, I'll tell you one example. A student of mine, brilliant student, but kind of like exerted himself so much that he started having this cervical pain, and he could not now study even continuously for 15 minutes, right? So therefore health becomes extremely very important, right? So therefore try to follow whichever path you want to follow. Maybe you are into running, maybe you are into gym, maybe you are into yoga, right? So therefore that is how you should be, right? Overall, smart preparation framework. So phase 1 is foundation, right? So don't try to think that, okay, in the first go itself, you're going to, understand everything, right? Because that will lead to demotivation. You may feel कि यार I'm reading this and I'm not able to understand anything, right? How will I clear UPSC? ऐसा नहीं होता है. First point पे, in the foundation phase, our focus should be to understand the concept. And पता है concept कहाँ होते हैं? वो language के पर्दे के पीछे होते हैं. ठीक है. सो योर प्राइमरी फोकस शुड नॉट बी कि अच्छा मेरे को बहुत अच्छा इंग्लिश में बात करना है, मेरे को बहुत अच्छा इंग्लिश में आंसर लिखना है. योर प्राइमरी फोकस शुड बी कि इस लैंग्वेज के पीछे इन वेरी लेमैन टर्म्स व्हाट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट, राइट. ये कहना क्या, ये पैराग्राफ कहना क्या चाह रहा है, right, in very simple words, in your own vernacular. My vernacular Hindi is, that's why I'm using Hindi, right. So therefore that's the foundation phase which is there, right. And every subject has a particular dictionary, okay, its own lingo. Therefore it will be a very good idea that if you're starting your UPSC preparation, you start reading the newspapers, and let's say if you're reading economics news, then have a digital dictionary of your own, self-crafted in your own language, right, whereby you mention the meaning, what is budget, what is repo in repo rate, what is reverse repo rate, right, what is inflation, very simple things. Maybe you don't know, right, what is deficit, what is fiscal deficit, how budget deficit is different from fiscal deficit, very simplistic questions, right. What is liquidity, what is difference between monetary and fiscal, right, these kind of things you form, okay. And that will really help you in the initial phase of foundation. As you progress gradually, you'll reach a phase where you can integrate the current affairs into the static, right, and ultimately you'll be able to have the output in the form of the tests which you write, the prelims and the mains test, right. So therefore overall that is the scenario which is there, right. Common pitfalls I have told you, keep minimalistic sources, right. I understand this is a very logical thing. If I do not know a particular topic, how can I write an answer in that topic? I'm totally with you. But don't over delay. Whenever you feel that at least understanding wise you have been able to cover a topic, अभी memory नहीं आई है तो confidence नहीं आ रहा है आंसर लिखने का. But whenever you feel that understanding wise you have covered a particular topic, then don't delay writing. Open book लिख लो. Read the question. Go to the book. Try to see, okay, what is the information, revise it, close the book, take 5 minutes break, then start writing the answer, right. Current affairs may choose one source, example newspaper, or you can decide to go for monthly magazines, right, example Vision Eyes has brilliant monthly magazines, right. Ethics are neglected, the same thing I told you, that mains only subjects, they dominate the mains. Please do not neglect the mains only subjects. Whenever you are reading current affairs, you come across a particular case study. You are reading current affairs, you come to know about Civil Services Award. That is, some civil servants have been, their efforts have been recognized by the government of India. Don't just, like look at the surface. Try to go to the internet and try to see that why exactly this particular bureaucrat was chosen for this particular award. Kya kiya usne, right? So they will find very good case studies, right? So that is how it is. Right away what you can do, as I told you, that you should fix sources for every paper, but आज के दिन नहीं कर पाओगे, उसके लिए थोड़ा सा 1-2 महीने के बाद you will be able to be there, right. Once you are conversant with the syllabus, so therefore you will be able to gradually understand that okay, this element of the syllabus I have covered, this element of the syllabus मेरा totally neglected है, right. So therefore gradually you should have that syllabus tracker kind of a thing, right. Get into the habit of making notes, right. यो ऐसा मत सोचो कि आपका जो first short notes बनाओगे वो बड़े perfect होंगे, but start, right. Get rid of that hesitation, right. CSAT बहुत लोग neglect करते हैं, या तो fear की वजह से या और confidence की वजह से. नहीं neglect करना है, ठीक है, because जब जनवरी क्रॉस हो जाता है उसके बाद एंग्जाइटी बहुत होती है, तो जनवरी से पहले जितना हम ग्राउंड कवर कर सकते हैं, दैट बिकम्स वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, राइट. व्हाट यू कैन डू इज जस्ट टू नो वेयर यू स्टैंड, राइट. You can take a sample prelims test, right, to know that okay, this is where you are, right. And well, maybe you can also go for some sample means answer writing, right. So therefore that is from my side. This exam is crackable, right. I'd like to end on the note, when I began my UPSC preparation, my doubts were what is fiscal, right. I didn't know what is the difference between assessment year and financial year. I came from science background, मतलब ये कभी नहीं किया था. Last I had studied humanities was like before class 11, that is in class 10, right. And I was never into reading newspapers, etc. But it was by focusing on the concepts that, well, with the parents' blessings, ultimately I was able to clear this journey, parents and God's blessing. So it is doable, right. But a structured approach रहना चाहिए, and we should be very very honest with ourselves. राइट, एंड ऑनेस्टी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ कि यार मैंने ये चीज़ पढ़ी है, किताब मैंने पढ़ी है, सही में समझ में आई है क्या, नहीं समझ में आई है तो फिर फाइट मारनी है, ठीक है, फाइट मारोगे तो हो जाएगा. गॉड ब्लेस यू, टेक केयर, बाय.